Welcome everyone to our executive roundtable, the hotel versus rental debate. When COVID first reared its ugly head, there was a lot of discussion about who would fare better in the lodging space. Would it be hotels or rentals? And many of us thought, well, hotels with their long-standing brands and reputation, loyalty, and cleanliness standards, whereas it was a little more inconsistent with rentals when it was left up to the owner. But so far, the customer has spoken, and rentals have had the clear advantage. So why and for how long? So to better understand these trends, I am going to introduce our panelists. We have quite a party here today. Patrick Andrae, co-founder and CEO of HomeToGo. Raj Kamal, CEO of OYO Vacation Homes. Henrik Kjellberg, Group CEO of Awaze. Alexandra Limpert, co-founder and CEO of GuestReady. Julie White, VP Commercial EMEA for Wyndham, Hotels and Resorts, and Jerome Wise, Vice President of Enterprise Clients for TravelClick. Welcome all of you.
Thank you.
So let's begin, because I think this first question might be also a way for the audience to get to know each of you. I mean, you're all in the lodging space, but in a little different place. So tell us, what have you seen, or what are you seeing now in terms of some of these guest trends, in terms of destinations or length of stay or booking window? And let's go in alphabetical order. So we'll start with Patrick.
Thank you, Lorraine. As hopefully many of you know, HomeToGo is the largest aggregator of accommodation supply in the world. We actually aggregate more than 70 million properties on our website. And due to that, we have obviously a quite good overview about trends and especially how rentals did in this occasion, because vacation rentals is our main focus. And so like the trends, as you just said, length of stay, how people really want to travel, where they want to travel, there was clear signs. So when the epidemic hit, I think the whole travel world got hit very dramatically, and also we and so rentals as well got a minus 90% loss year over year in terms of actual bookings happening, and also facing a lot of cancellations. But as soon as this epidemic hit, you also saw different new patterns. People going out of the city, trying to have something where they can quarantine. And then once it was a little bit more clearer what was happening, for sure, rentals got this huge kind of rebound. Yeah, so although, as I said, there was this valley that we all had to go through, I don't want to say that really, but it seems like rentals are the winners to a certain extent in this pandemic, because, so for instance, HomeToGo is by far now looking at the whole year, year to date up compared to last year. Yeah, although we had a tremendous valley going through prior, but nonetheless keeping all that together. And this shows pretty well, because our business mainly is vacation rentals, so domestic, people going there by car and so on, that rentals actually has a huge demand that came in.
Raj, are you seeing the same thing at OYO?
Yes, Lorraine, to a large extent, yes. I mean, OYO Vacation Homes is one of the largest vacation homes businesses in the world, with about 150,000 homes across 50 countries, across the continent of Europe and UK, serving about 2 million guests every year, and with about 50,000 homeowners. So that's who we are. I think we are actually seeing 5 trends, and I would just highlight those. We're seeing guests are more local. So local demand, nearby demand has actually gone up by about 45 to 50%. We see bookings are more last minute. So people are booking with shorter windows. We've seen last minute bookings actually go up more than 100% consistently month over month. We are seeing guests looking for more flexibility. For the first time, we found that flexible terms and flexible rebooking terms scored over discounts in customer surveys, and that was quite telling. We've seen more focus on brands. A crisis like this actually raises a question of trust, and brands which are deep local brands or very strong global brands are the ones where there is more trust. So we've seen that. And the fifth thing we've seen is, at least we have noticed, is a heightened need for cleanliness. We have actually heard from about 90% of our guests that they're looking for cleanliness more than ever in the past. And at least I'm not surprised. So
cleanliness,
I think similar trends.
Important. Great. Henrik, how about at Awaze?
Similar. I mean, I can throw out superlative stats about my company as well. I shall refrain. Look, I think COVID is a big humanitarian crisis, but it has been good for the staycation sector. We are seeing a lot of domestic as well, a lot of bookings closer in time and longer bookings, so longer stays than we had seen before. So I think, it's horrible to say it, but yeah, the pandemic has been a tremendous tailwind for the staycation sector.
And Alex?
So yeah, we're also a vacation rental management company. Traditionally, we're more focused on urban areas, and what we're seeing now is a kind of a separation between the bigger cities and the smaller cities. And I was actually really surprised to see that mid-sized cities, as in France, for example, Lyon, Bordeaux, or Cannes, were up year on year. But in the bigger cities like Paris or London, where we have a lot of international travelers, we're still not quite where we were last year. In terms of other trends, we see last-minute bookings going up. The average booking window is about 20 days. The average length of stay has gone up a lot, and we're now at almost double of last year, around 9 days now. And we're obviously seeing a lot more local travelers as well. So pretty similar trends to what others have described.
I mean, so similar trends in terms of local, domestic, long stays. That seems to obviously benefited the rental space. So when I go to Julie and Jerome, and I'll start with you, Julie, you're getting a little different perspective there. Say hotels are struggling a bit more than the rental space right now. So if you would answer the question, but also, can you also comment on what hoteliers might need to do differently to maybe replicate some of the success that the rental market has had?
Well, first of all, I think it's a little bit, quite honestly, a little bit unfair to generalize all hotels in the same category, because we are seeing a major difference by hotel segments and different scales. We're seeing economy and mid-scale definitely rebounding much faster, particularly those that provide suburban locations, as mentioned, and also those that enable things like road trips or holiday vacations out in near national parks. We've seen properties similarly to the vacation rentals that are located near national park areas or adventure, areas that are doing quite well on a year-over-year basis. Those that are in city centers are also struggling a little bit more. Those are large conference hotels with lots of facilities that are closed and amenities that people can't take advantage of are also having a harder time. So I think we can't group all hotels into the same sort of experience. Secondly, we are seeing a mix of both leisure travelers, but we're seeing a lot of frontline workers who are choosing to stay in hotels as well. It's a combination of people during lockdown. We had hospital staff, we had construction workers and transportation workers, essential workers out there using our properties as alternative accommodation while keeping their families safe. In addition, we're seeing an emergence of a different kind of traveler coming after the summer as we pivot into a new phase, because now, these last 12 weeks cannot necessarily predict what's going to be happening as we turn from the summer vacation scenario into what is now more kids back in school. It'll be more mini breaks. It will be more around the kind of demand for small and medium-sized companies coming back on the road. So it is a little bit of a mix, I have to admit, within the hotel perspective.
So when I go to you, Jerome, and first of all, you kind of agree with Julie, because Wyndham's in a good place because a lot of drive hotels and that area that seems to be doing a lot better with the domestic traveler. So, can you comment, Jerome, on that? And also, do you foresee these trends staying the way they are, or changing now that the kids are back at school and folks are starting to get back into
I think there's a few things that we need to bear in mind here. So undoubtedly over the last few months, couple of months, the rental market has done well. I think you've got to bear in mind that in many countries, particularly through Europe, hotels were legally not allowed to open, and therefore, if people wanted to stay anywhere, that was the choice. That was the choice they had. Obviously, there's been a lot of the staycation. There's been the drive-away short breaks because people haven't had the confidence to book their traditional summer holidays that generally happen through July and August throughout Europe. So that's also benefited the rental market. And there's a pretty large segment of the population, I think, that are perhaps mobile and they're working from home. They don't have to be tethered to within an hour and a half of the office, and so they're reimagining where their home might be. And I know this is perhaps more anecdotal than anything, but I know of at least half a dozen people that have said, I'm going to rent a place for 2 weeks up in so-and-so or over here and just see what it's like to live there, because why not? Because that's a unique space and time that people have got. So, and again, I think that plays into the rental market. As we hopefully return to some kind of a routine where there is, children are at schools, et cetera, and we come out of that holiday season, I think that this is going to shift. Quite how it's going to shift, I don't know, but I think that the rise of the hay that the rental market has made in the last 2 or 3 months, I think is probably going to at least plateau.
Any comments on that?
I think an important piece here is, well, I think what we need to remember as well, we're not talking about airlines today, but the problem for a lot of the industry is the airlines need to fill the planes at 75%, or they're burning more cash than they are making. And I just had a friend of mine in Hong Kong, he's a captain for Cathay, flying to Xiamen from Hong Kong. Plane was an A330, completely empty, 0 passengers, and they were selling tickets for that flight. He had 20 tons of cargo, that was it. So the airlines, IATA is predicting till 2024, and I think for big cities and for hotels, that will impact that. But I agree with Jerome that, yeah, of course, the tailwinds we have now will plateau. Hotels will be gradually filled up. But I was in Manchester last week. We were 3 people in the hotel, and we were all from the same company, and that was it.
Yeah, we're seeing, looking at our data, we're seeing that across Europe, hotels are probably around 30% of what they were last year, and net air reservations are around 15%. So clearly, there's a big disparity there. And to your point, Henrik, airlines can't make money unless they're running at 75%. Hotels can't make money unless airlines are running at 75% either, because they rely on that international traffic that's so valuable. And right now, we're seeing that certainly in the UK, around 80% of people staying in UK hotels are coming from the UK. That means that it's generally a shorter length of stay. It's generally a lower rate. It's certainly a lot less ancillary spending on property. So it's not great for hotels. And so until international travel kind of loosens and starts opening up again, I think we're all going to be in this point of uncertainty where we're trying to reimagine where the business is coming from and figure it out.
Are we going to see more of a merging of hotel and rental inventory? I mean, up to now, we really haven't seen that. And is it time?
Okay, I'll go. Sorry, but it's hard to know who goes first. I'll make sure the other speakers get an opportunity. Yes, I would say absolutely yes. Just like in the past, there was a big divide between independent hotels and chain hotels. If you look back 20 years, and consumers are very open to trying both today because they've learned they can do that. I think this crisis will have been a catalyst for people learning to appreciate vacation rentals as well. And I think that gap will never be closed again.
And I think that was happening before. That was starting to happen before, where certain rental platforms were putting hotel content on the sites. If you go on Booking.com app, it's very confusing as to whether you're looking at a hotel well, it's very confusing, but it's very confusing whether you're looking at a hotel or a rental property, etc. So that is merging, and I think that both the rental market and the hotel market are probably looking at what each other are doing well and trying to see whether they can bring that into their business model as well.
I'm going to throw this next question to Patrick, because he's been a little quiet here.
I just was about to enter that bit.
Please go ahead.
No, I think the general thing, so in all kind of shifting trends that you see for sure some people going back, but there's a lot of people that never tried something before. And it's also to the point what Henrik said, right? So vacation rentals, especially vacation rentals, because this is the topic I think like Awaze and we are coming from, not that focused on the city, although we have the inventory. I think like there's a lot of things where people have never tried actually vacation rentals before as an option to do vacation, and they now use this option and learn also what is the opportunity or the better things around vacation rentals. So you have your own home, you can stay separate, your own pool, and so on, and might not miss the hotel service. And so I think like the thing for vacation rentals, it is a tailwind, but it is also a step change, because there will be, like this market was in travel anyway, the fastest growing. So vacation rentals, alternative accommodation as a segment. And now you can actually see that vacation rentals will become was already prior not a niche product, but will become a main product that more people will generally also in the future, once the pandemic is over, whenever this is, be in the focus of people like thinking around traveling.
What do you think of that, Julie?
I think it's going to be a mix, honestly, because I think there's opportunities still within the vacation rental as that awareness does expand. But I think there will always be travelers who are doing a road trip, who are looking for a different kind of accommodation, mothers who, just following on the previous discussion, who don't want to be in a kitchen cooking for their kids, who want to have services available for them, who want to have the types of amenities that a hotel can offer, which is a kids camp or other types of opportunities to have a family vacation. So I think the diversity in the guest experience is always going to be there and what guests are looking for. There's always going to be a demand for the different variances. So I think, and it's not only leisure demand that supports the hotel community. There's clearly, MICE and hybrid meetings is starting to already come back in certain markets, led by Germany and by Turkey. And so as we've not seen, the last 8-12 weeks, like I say, has had a completely different work environment and demand environment. And we're pivoting into a different phase right now. And I think it's very good to see, and let's see what the next 8 to 10 weeks also brings in the return of corporate, the return of some MICE and corporate and meetings. And let's see how that evolves as we go forward before we, try to say one is a winner and the other is a loser in this situation.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good point. Our hotels do need to wait for that business travel to come back, that group travel. That's key.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Lorraine, I mean, in my view, I think what some of the panelists are saying, and I think makes sense also, is that probably what has happened is mainstreaming of vacation rentals as a result of this crisis. And I think that is one clear takeaway. I think, whether one will win or not, I think that to me is a fair conversation to have. But I think even for hotels, the question would be what's changed post the crisis, just as the same questions are true for us in the vacation rental space. So it's not so much of a one versus the other. It's about what's changed fundamentally. So if it's more, less human touch and minimal physical touch, if it is more flexibility, how do you survive and how do you figure out your own business model in the new world? But for sure, mainstreaming of vacation rentals is a clear takeaway from the crisis. That's what I would think.
Well, you know within the OYO group that vacation rentals is a bit more exciting than hotels. Come on, say it.
We love every business which deals with living spaces.
Diplomatic answer. Alice, we have questions?
Yes. So you guys spoke a little bit about seeing longer stays, but we do have an audience question that would love to know about true long stay lodging offerings, both from the hotel and rental side. In this era where, we can work from anywhere, are you seeing the demand for that true long-term stay rising as well?
So I can probably take that one. So we've definitely seen this in all our cities, that we have stays up to 2-3 months, even longer. And I think we believe that this trend will continue, and that actually also now people want to keep a sort of a flexibility. So what we're seeing in cities that have large expat population, for example, before they're making a move either to the city or away from the city, they're just taking a rental from GuestReady, for example, for 2-3 months before they decide if they want to stay for a whole year and really commit to a long-term lease for a year or 2 years. So that's definitely a trend that we've seen.
what we saw in the beginning of the crisis already, right? Like people were going out of big cities. So for instance, out of New York to be in the suburbs and so on, to be in a nice place, not in a small flat, actually quarantined or locked down. So this is a general thing that we also see in the demand. Yeah, so near to big cities, there is demand for normally classical vacation rentals, yeah, that people would rather do for a vacation and not like for work or remote work.
I'm going to switch gears a bit to distribution. So has COVID accelerated the trend toward direct? Because I think this is another assumption that we might have had early on, that more people will go direct because they want that connection with the brand. Or Booking, Airbnb, and Vrbo just getting bigger.
Let me take that, because I think everybody would have expected that booking direct people would book more direct because they want to be closer to the source of where their money's ultimately going. And I think, we've all seen horror stories about the issues that people have had with getting their refunds paid back to them, etc. We're seeing that brand.com business is up 1.5% compared to last year, which is kind of good until you look at the other side of the graph or the pie chart, where you see the OTA business is up 10%. So, and the majority of that growth on OTA is into the upper mid-scale and upscale type of properties, if you use the that kind of vernacular. So they've massively benefited, and I think there's kind of a little bit of a vacuum that's being created here. We work with a lot of brands and hotel chains on their marketing, and whilst hotels have paused all their investment in marketing, and if OTAs continue, then I think that's just going to just make that gap grow even more. So it's really interesting how that's happened. I don't think that's the end of the story, and I think by the end of the year we might see some normalization. But at the moment, I certainly see the OTAs are taking advantage of a vacuum of marketing investment from brands.
Right, and it may not be a fair question, because when you look at share, if you don't have that business travel, you're naturally going to see a little more OTA. Do you comment on that, Julie?
Yeah, I would agree with that, and I think it's our primary focus right now is getting guests into hotels, and channel shift is secondary to that, to getting guests returning and booking is our primary priority right now. There is a difference in information. It took the distribution channels, and it's still taking the distribution channels a bit of time to get the information about what the hotels are doing in terms of their hygiene and safety precautions out there. So it is a little bit different in that information. But right now, our primary obligation is to try to drive bookings, and channel shift will come later after we've rebounded, primarily.
And where does Google fit in all this?
Well, the interesting thing is, because the OTAs have largely pulled back from the auction, and so we're seeing quite a big PPC deflation across all of Europe right now. Which, I mean, there's always a Google tax to pay. So I'm happy that one level of taxation is going down, and I think a lot of us are thinking about, do we really want to go back to the same level and to the same dependencies that we had on Google in the past? And my hope is the answer is no.
It's an interesting one, because I read somewhere that Google is responsible for maybe 60-65% of all hotel reservations, yet they only get paid, i.e. through the auction, on maybe 18%. So I think it's really hard not to work with them, but I agree they're a tax. If someone owns 95% of the search market, then it's not an option for you to participate in necessarily. I've had a number of conversations with brands about.
Well, some of the OTAs are actually pulling back, so that non-participation is happening as we speak right now.
Absolutely, but if you half your marketing investment from 4 billion to 2 billion, it's still a pretty hefty investment.
Patrick, you're laughing. What are you laughing at?
No, I think I can second what Henrik said, but on the other side, you might be aware of that we have filed a EU complaint against Google, and so for sure we look very closely on on what Google is doing in these things. And for sure, like if you are the leader in horizontal search, it's obvious that, as Henrik said, you try to get taxes from all the others that want to get part of your searches. And obviously, although you don't pay taxes in the countries you make the money with, but nonetheless, I think like the thing is from our side, and this is more for sure my personal view as HomeToGo or as CEO of HomeToGo, that Google, on one hand, for sure, there's the AdWords world, but on the other hand, Google seems to be trying to pull or to get further themselves into travel to control it, and that not the OTAs or aggregators like HomeToGo get a larger pie, or companies like Awaze directly. And this is obviously something that why we filed the EU complaint. Yeah, and because using horizontal search is the possibility to place your product that is maybe not as good as other competing products, much more favorable. Yeah.
We only have a couple more minutes, so I just want to ask two quick questions. Number one is consolidation, because OYO, obviously, Cordac Leisure, HomeToGo, Tripping, Awaze was European vacation rental. It used to be Wyndham. Are we going to see more consolidation in this space? Maybe just a quick yes or no. Patrick, I'm just going to have to go.
I assume yes, yeah, but there's also new companies arising, yeah. So like, especially in the city prior to the COVID thing, and that will be interesting what happens there. Yeah, so like companies that came in there. Yeah.
Great, Raj.
Yes, I think there is there's increasingly requirement for brands which are deep local and global, and that will drive consolidation because that's where trust will lead the consumer to.
Mm-hmm. Henrik?
Well, we're owned by a PE firm, so if I say no, I'll be fired. No, I'm kidding. So definitely there will be consolidation. What happened in the online travel agency space, hotel space, will happen in this space as well.
Alex?
From my side, it's a clear yes too. We believe in consolidation, and we've seen this trend already before. So I think now it's just accelerating.
Julie?
Yes, I reflect also Raj's point that we are seeing independent properties, particularly in some markets like India, where it's still very, very highly fragmented, coming as we've seen that they value what we've demonstrated as a brand in terms of the support of brand standards, professional protocols, synergies, and the support that a brand can provide. So that is attracting, but there's also opportunities across the region.
Jerome? Last word.
You can go all the way through the alphabet, Lorraine. You're not going to find anyone that says no. I think across the hotel brands and hotel infrastructure, you can see consolidation across the rental market. You will across the vendor side, across the travel agency, consortia, TMC side.
Across the whole space, absolutely.
Not everybody can survive this, unfortunately. It's where we are.
Something we all agree on. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.